Forbidden cards are the main draw to Season 1 in Chaos Zero Nightmare. From unlocking game-breaking attacks to entirely new combos to pull off, these are the main reason to grind out save data. So, how do you get them? What's the best method for farming? And just how important is that mutant sample? Welcome to the channel, everyone. My name is Cosmic, and today we're going to break down how to approach seasonal farming and the best way to save hours of grinding. And just to give you the quick breakdown up front, one, you're going to want to look for the double question marks. That's where the tunnel is located. Knowing when to quit and jumping out is super important. And then last but not least, just pray you get the mutant sample. We'll give a showcase of why that's so important later on in the video. But man, 40 points can make or break some of these builds. So with out of the way, let's just dive into it and just start with, well, the double question mark. So the telltale way to find out if you're gonna find a tunnel is looking through your map, planning ahead, and finding where those double, or in some cases, triple question mark tiles line up. Now, the most important detail about this is that the forbidden cards themselves can only appear on the first floor. I have gotten this dozens of times now, and while you can get an event that's like the Mythic Treasure Room in the normal Chaos, where there's a toast celebration, you can get credits, you can get items, what have you, I have not yet been able to get a forbidden card on the second floor. So let me know if you've been able to find one, or also you'll notice that there are supposed to be negative modifiers as you're going through that says, hey, this will make the final boss harder if maybe you get 200 credits instead of 100 credits as one of the options. I also haven't been able to tell any sort of, game-breaking negative effects or like making the boss super hard as I was going through this. So I'm not sure if those are just not working or not fully enabled or what have you, but I haven't really found any real drawback. And again, in the only dozen or so times that I've done this, and I have found them. So once you get that forbidden card and once you select the right one, let's assuming that you got the forbidden card that you want, it's really important to note that yes, you will have to deal with that negative modifier until you clear the first boss. And I'm gonna be honest, some of those really suck and there's no way to sugarcoat that. But at the end of it, you do get a really cool card from it. That's the whole reason why we are going to be grinding this out. Now, it is important to note, as I just mentioned, is that you do need to clear the first floor boss. And, well, going into the boss with an extra negative modifier can be quite difficult. Now, one thing I do want to add here that I haven't really been able to figure out where else it goes in terms of, is there a certain threshold, can only be on like tier 10 or higher, is that I am only farming this on difficulty 8 and above, right, in that regard, or tier 12, 13, 14. Something to keep as a note here is that a lot of other people, at least looking at Reddit comments, Twitter, what have you, have said they have not been able to find the forbidden event. So while I'm not able to confirm it for the sake of this video, I would have to assume that if you're on a higher tier difficulty as well as save data, you are more likely to run into these types of events. Now, I do want to also add a stress here. There is no reason going above difficulty 8 if you're just trying to farm this save data. You can get up to 160 points in difficulty 8. You just have to refresh those modifiers until you hit the right threshold. At least on difficulty 8, and again, this was before patch the last time I've got it, I've seen it drop all the way down to a tier 10 just because there wasn't enough negative modifiers attached to it, meaning it wasn't as difficult. So if at any time you find yourself on difficulty 8 and not able to challenge the most highest difficulty and get that save data that you're ultimately looking for, just keep refreshing. Early on, you might not have a lot of those orbs to refresh, but trust me, when you're going through this exercise, you will eventually get there and have enough to worry about. So knowing when to quit, that is another big topic that I want to talk about, because this is the biggest time waste as you're going through it, as you're trying to maybe target certain things. So I do want to stress, this is only for players who are at difficulty 8 and strictly looking for the forbidden data. Now, you might have a really lucky run. Maybe you found the mutant sample and you're like, hey, even if I don't get a forbidden card, I can pivot. I can make this now a Mika focus and let Mika be the one to get these save data refinements as you're going through the run. So while I'm going to say to quit after the first boss if you don't get a forbidden card, do keep in mind there is still going to be some value, assuming you either get the right copy or find that mutant sample early on. And that's kind of another big point that I do want to mention. Not everyone is always going to care about that first copy, but if you're trying to go for like the ultimate Tressa save file and you want the triple healing dagger combo to pull off, if you don't get that first copy off that boss, quit, get out of there, save yourself the extra half hour to an hour on the second half, because you are very unlikely then to get all 3 copies that you really need. The only way I've ever ended up with 3 copies of a card that I really wanted in a deck is also making sure that I got that first boss to hit the right copy. Now you can change this up a little bit, and you can run into things like unique cards that will say, hey, this can't be a target copy, or you can go on the all-in removal route and just trying to remove other cards from your other combatants, so it's more likely to target, in the example we've given, Tressa, to target her key upgrade. So there is a little bit of ways that you can manipulate the system and ultimately try to fit it all together, but do keep in mind this is going to be very important for, am I doing a forbidden run? Am I trying to look for Tressa save data? Maybe I didn't find the forbidden data, but I got an early copy, and now this is the save data that I'm going to save and try to push for, right? You can still get that early copy and then fix the run, as so to speak, in the second half. Now, the last thing I do want to bring up for the sake of this video is just talking about how important that mutant sample can be. And again, if you are playing a lower save value of someone like Tressa, well, you probably don't care. Getting your copies is not going to cost the overall increase that to be that high, so you don't need the full 160 points. However, for some of the other characters, especially if you're trying to deal with someone like Yuki or Ren, who is going to want all these extra divines, you want to get the right copies, you're removing some of the basics in some instances, right? That can be very, very expensive. So the last piece of advice I want to give is making sure that you are finding the mutant sample. And just for an example here, I'm going to show the event that it comes from. And while there are other removal based events as you're going through the first floor, you can also get the double card removal event as well. Keeping in mind the only way that you're going to save those 40 points, which again is the difference between converting a basic, which costs 10, and then will remove itself at the end of the run because it has a removal tag, compared to the third removal of a basic, which has that 20 point tax attached to it, and then the 30 that you get for that extra removal, right? That is a massive, massive difference. And I'm going to give a showcase here for just the Haru data that we've been talking about. And we did get 160 because, well, unfortunately for us, we did not get the mutant sample data. But the reason why I kept this run is, well, 1, we got the forbidden card that we were looking for, and 2, we got the right anchor shot on top of everything else somehow. So I was really happy with this run, and we just decided to carry it out. But do keep in mind that even looking at this breakdown, you know, overall, this is probably good enough. I really don't need to expand on this for any content that's currently in the game. That would be more of just the win more category, as we would call it. But also keep in mind, how sick would it be if we got a extra draw epiphany divine here? I should say divine draw here, right? Or how sick would it be if we just had a extra AP generator, right? While this is a very low costed combo that you pull off when you Ecstasy eventually gets to 0 cost, you're looping it back with a bunch of the 0 cost cards or playing a bunch of the 0 cost Nia cards. The AP doesn't really matter that much, but depending on who you're partnering this with, it could really be a big deal. Or at the very least, it could have had morale, right? Which is still going to be a plus 20 here if we were able to get it on both of these. So yes, there is a little bit of room for improvement that we could have seen in this build. But again, ultimately, once I finish partnering up and beefing up my Nia and getting her an artifact set, making sure that she's not in the level 40 pits, as it were, this will be a good enough save data that should clear Crab and should clear all current content in the game. Now, do keep in mind we are getting that big raid boss in about 2 weeks from today's recording, but we'll have to wait and see how much that ultimately matters. I mean, the fact that I can just have a 8,000 damage nuke that I can realistically play every single turn, I shouldn't need anything more than that, right, at the end of the day. So once I, fix my Nia save data, once I figure out which other vulnerable applicator I really want to lean in to make this work, I mean, this card is going to solo the rest of the season for me. So if there's maybe a negative that I will say at the end of all this is that, well, this is the final build. There's no reason for me to play Haru anymore unless I really want to try to farm that 1 in a million save data, which, if you want to, be my guest. For me personally, well, I have a lot of other characters to work on that I'll definitely consider instead, but, I'm very happy again that I was able to get this save data because now it puts her in a great spot. And again, technically I missed an epiphany here as well, right? If we look at power charge, and that's fine, right? So there is still room to improve on this build. There's definitely a lot more that I could, flex for, but the charge energy being the right one, which is a huge damage boost for this Forbidden in particular, as well as having 2 of the cards that loops it back from our discard pile. It helps out a ton, so I'm going to say that this build is done and we're good to go and try to find the next Forbidden card that we want to go farm. So, again, I hope this video was helpful. I was getting a ton of questions on this, and again, just really quickly to recap at the end, make sure you're looking for the double question marks. Those are always going to be a tunnel for you. If you don't get the Forbidden that you're looking for, go until the first boss, see if maybe you get the copy card that helps your build, and maybe you can pivot and save that run. But in the case where both of those are a miss, go ahead and quit. And then also, again, this is technically optional depending on how save data heavy your character is going to be. But if you don't get the mutant sample, that would also be a condition where I think it would be worth considering exiting out of the run, because 40 points or 2 divines is a huge difference in power level when you bring it all together. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What is your favorite Forbidden that you're currently trying to farm? Or are you just all in on the damage dealing and just trying to find the key card to kill the crab? Definitely let me know. But until next time, my friends, let me know if you have any other questions or topics that you want to see for the next video. But until then, stay safe, stay hydrated, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.